And welcome to the Town Outdoor Show. I'm Charlie.
I'm JD.
Captain Paul Tire.
And I'm Grant.
Sorry. I had a cough. Anyway, we're missing Fred today. I don't want to say what he's doing. Poor old Fred. It's a HIPAA violation if I say he's at the doctor.
We ain't doctors.
No, nor are we bound by HIPAA violations.
It's a friendship violation, but
he said
he's getting violated.
He said not fun. He texts back not fun.
Not fun?
Not fun.
He is being violated today.
He's at the men doctor having not fun today.
Women have them too, by the way. That's not just a men thing.
Anyway,
he's getting a old tutor rooter. Everybody knows what that is.
Yeah. So, sorry, Fred.
I had a colonoscopy about 5 years ago, and every time the nurses, I was in recovery there, and the little nurses walk by, and my wife's in there with me, and every time they walk by, they just go to giggling and shaking their head. And finally, my wife says, "What is all this?" Every time you walk by, she goes, and one of the nurses goes, "That's the funniest man I've ever been." He is the funniest guy we've ever had in here. He goes, "Must be interested around your house." And my wife said, "Please tell me he didn't say anything inappropriate." And they go, "No, he didn't say anything inappropriate. He's just funny."
Yeah, I had to get shots in my back. L4, L5 disc stuff, just sciatica pain. All I went to the pain man, and they say, "Hey, you want to go to pain management?" And I'm like, "No, I don't want to do that." Dr. Miller kept me going for a long time and still does a lot of good for me. But every now and then you just got to go get, there's stuff that's got to be done. And no surgery. It was just pain management. And I said, "Okay, we're going to give you stick this needle in your back." And
no, you're not.
Whew, not fun. So I find humor in uncomfortable situations like we do.
Yeah.
And so when they, do you want to be sedated? I'm like, no, I want to get up and be able to walk out of here. Oh, well, we got to roll you out in a wheelchair. I think I can find my way out. But yeah, I had the nursing staff pretty much in stitches the whole time. And it's been a while back now, but it's just your smart alecky.
Well, they did in fact sedate me and knock me out to do that.
Now, see, I'm afraid of what I'd say if anybody puts me under anything.
I apparently woke up. Apparently, I woke up mid-procedure and apparently did a stand-up routine during the colonoscopy with all them in the room, and I don't know. But they just walk by and laugh, and my wife's like, "Oh God, please, what did you say?" "I don't know. I don't even remember it." So there you go.
Well, if you find a marble in there, I swallowed one when I was about 8, and I hadn't seen it since. So. I looked for it after I drank that stuff, and I didn't see it in either. I figured out if nothing else knocked it out of there, that would. Yeah, I can see. I can see. Is there an echo in there? Did I hear that twice?
And the colonoscopy is not bad. It's really not. They knock you out. They do their thing. They bring you back, and you let off a bunch of gas, and it's just it's not bad. What's bad is the getting ready for the colonoscopy. If you ain't never had that done, they give you this stuff that cleans out your system, and it is not a gentle. It is not a gentle process. It is a violent process of all that. But anyway, it's bad. I mean, it's anyway. You need to have that done.
I know.
In all honesty,
and people our age should be doing it every year or so, and I don't.
If everything's all right, they tell you can come back in 5 years. So I'm right about that. I'm about that point where I'm finna have to go back and get it done again. But you need to have it done, and because colon cancer is real, and
it is. But I remember a football physical where a fella felt at my young age he felt like he had to use a rubber glove and feel around, and I hadn't entertained that idea since. It's just not.
You need to go get it done for real. So
yeah.
So anyway,
I know.
Anyway,
but I go down swinging. Somebody, what y'all to die of? Well, he wouldn't go get tested. At least he held out to the very end. Yeah, I know how important it is. It's almost like women getting breast checks and stuff. That's very, very important. But it's as my my wife has a phrase for it. I go get my so-and-so squeezed, and I'm like, the what you like in beer, she had to go get her the squeeze. I don't want to say it on the radio because mixed company. Although, I don't know. You
started that sentence, not quite sure where it was going to end.
Yeah,
we got to change the subject.
You never truly know with Charlie is where that's going to go, and
Yeah. Anyway, so we miss you, Fred.
Good
more
luck.
power to you. That's anyway.
I can't wait to hear how that went.
Oh yeah, it's going to be a story.
Fred's probably he's probably having a good time with it.
That's just part of one of the things, as men. Speaking of that, my son's with me today. CJ's over there. This is summer, school's out, obviously, and I'm like, hey, you want to go with me today? And he looked at me like, yeah, right. I'm not leaving these video games and all this stuff here at the house. So I go, hey, we got that new laser shot
video
machine.
game.
It projects up on a wall. It's got all these scenarios and shooting games and stuff in there. And I said, I got to go over as soon as we record a radio show today. We're gonna I'm gonna go over there and start looking at scenarios because I'm going through the scenarios. I know you and Matt went over and looked at some too, and I'm going through the law enforcement scenarios trying to pick out the good ones for to teach certain things that matter. And narrowing it down to a small pool, and then maybe we'll take a look at those and narrow it down from there to teach specific things. And I said, but there's some games in there, and there's some shooting drills and some stuff like that. I said, while I'm doing a radio show, you can come over. And so I went out there and told Matt, I said, hey, man, go turn that stuff on and give that CJ. What he doesn't understand is he'll be working on his shooting skills with a handgun. But we had a long talk on the way over here about what it means to be men and leaders in the family and our community and everything. And we've had these conversations before. And maybe one day he'll hear this show and he'll go back and I remember having that conversation with Daddy. And I talked to him about how much it means, because I've got 3 daughters and a son. And I as do you, and so that son is, now I love my daughters more than life itself. I'm not discounting them at all, and they have leadership roles and places in the family and the community. But as an alpha male, as a patriarch of my family, as a strong, toxically masculine man, it is our job to provide a leadership role and to provide safety and security for our family and direction and all that stuff. And I had that conversation with him again this morning and talked about how important it is to the family that I said, if you want to go off and do something in the world and move away, that's fine, but you're going to have to maintain a presence here at home because we have land and we have belongings and we have the family, and this is where our family's at. I said, whatever you want to do in life, you're 12, 13, you'll be. You can change your mind 12 times between now and then.
Yeah.
But you are going to have some responsibility, and son, it's time for you to start stepping up, being more involved in now that we're getting more into the farm and stuff on tractors, and we're going to start fencing some stuff in this fall. And I said, it's time for you to start. That time on the video game as an adult is earned. You have to work and then find that time to go escape, and you can't have a successful relationship if all you do is stay on a video game. I said, so you've got to learn to start metering that. That's fine, but that's unproductive. I said 95% of the time you're on that machine, you're not being productive in any way, shape, form, or fashion at this point. And so now it's time to start learning to be a man. He's at that age to fight the bully, not be the bully, to be cognizant of what he has in the world and look at his friends and maintain relationships and learn how to navigate those relationships so that, you are the best friend that you can be, so that you are the best man that you can be, and that those, what it means to sacrifice and consider other people's feelings. And at the same time, be strong.
Stand up for yourself. Yep.
I'm still working on it. I'm 57.
That's a difficult balance.
Yeah, it's an ever-evolving process. There's probably something in the Bible about that, isn't there?
That sure is.
Yeah, I'm sure there is.
Lots of stuff.
But anyway, that's life. We'll be right back. And we're back. Speaking of being patriarchs and men in our family. JD, you got a passel full of women at your house, and you've got one youngin' that is all up in the pickup trucks and stuff. And I pulled in. We were just talking about pulled in the parking lot, and I didn't see your truck. And I'm going, I'm running behind, and JD's not here. But somebody parked in his spot. That's a cool truck right there. Man, that looks. Hey, that's that truck JD bought for his youngin'. Yeah, it's got tires and rims.
Old City of Tallahassee utility truck that's all tricked out now.
Well, you bought your truck, your F-250, and you didn't do anything to it but put a bed cover on it. Mm-hmm. And then you go and buy this truck for her, and then you're putting rims and tires and all this stuff.
Yeah,
you put a stereo in there.
Stereo, lift kit.
Of course, it's hard to replace a stock platinum level touchscreen and a
what's
new
left
truck
to do to my truck? My truck I drive. There ain't. It's
I do stuff nobody notices but me.
I put fuel in it and drive it, and it makes me happy. But that old thing was it was an old City of Tallahassee utility 2009 F-150 XL. So no frills. It has roll down manual crank windows, and
I just think it's cool. That's what she likes.
Yeah, that child has, and she's just as girly and frilly and all that stuff. But for some reason, she has liked pickup trucks. And I think one day when she was a little bitty thing, we rode by the boat landing down on Bull Headley Road, and there was a guy down there that had I guess he was just sightseeing or whatever, and he was in an old Ford F-100, probably from the mid '60s. Kind of that streamlined looking, whatever. And she was a little bitty thing, and we got out to walk out on the dock, and she says, "Daddy, what kind of truck is that?" And I said, "That's an old F-100 Ford." And she goes, "I like that. I want one of those when I get old enough to drive. I want a truck." And that stuck with her for her entire life. She had pictures in her room of old pickup trucks. I don't know why, but she just always has liked pickup trucks. And I really wanted to go and, now that she's getting ready to start driving here in a few months, and I kind of wanted to do the classic truck thing, but I really wanted all the safety features, airbags and disc brakes and power steering and all that stuff that you either have to. And I went to looking at resto modding something. Holy cow! You talk about having some serious money tied up in a vehicle. You start putting those modern things on an old truck, and you're gonna have spent a pile of money time it's all said and done. But we got a good deal on this, and it's got all that stuff, and she really likes it. So that's really all that matters. But she, she's tickled. I
still say if I ever come into a windfall of money, I'm going to go back and buy me like a 70 or 72 Chevrolet, like my first truck. I want one. But I don't want to restore one. I want to buy one that's already restored.
Oh yeah,
so it's going to be expensive.
Yeah, I guarantee if I'm the same way, I would have a '68 or '69 step-side Chevrolet short bed truck with but all the modern stuff on it.
The gas sloshing behind the seat there.
Yeah,
you're smart. You get one.
But I want air conditioning, and I want power steering and disc brakes, and I'm with you. But you're talking about a whole lot of money to get all, and it's possible. It's just
you find somebody like I did with my Jeep, where they put a ton of money in it, and then decide that they don't really need it anymore, so they sell it.
Yeah.
For what they can sell it for, not what they got in it. Because I took a huge hit on my old TJ or L whatever that Jeep was, one of the square headlights. When I got rid of the Jeep, I just totally forgot all the Jeep stuff. I said, I'm out of the Jeep world now. But it took me several tries. I finally built the one I wanted with everything in it that I wanted, all the modifications, the lock and rear ends, the disc brakes all the way around, the V8 with the Edelbrock intake and the aftermarket fuel injection and everything. I mean, you name it, it had it. And it was something. And then I moved back to Marianna. It sat under the shed for a year and a half and didn't move. And I'm like, I'm going to go out there and crank it up and keep the rats from chewing the wires. And I'm like, then let me just sell this thing. And then when I sold it, whew, that hurt my feelings. But, so I won't do that again.
Well, and the same thing in the gun world is, when you buy, we see this all the time. People buy a gun. It's a plain Jane something or other, and then they go and get a fancy paint job on it, and they add this to it, and they add that to it, and they modify this, and they add that, and they whatever, and it becomes so customized that only they would want it.
Right.
It's so individualized to them, and then they get tired of it because they had fun doing all those things to it.
Mm-hmm.
And I get that. They enjoyed making all these changes, and what all can we do to this? And then they bring it up here and go, I want to sell this. I want $2,000 for it. I'm like, well, that's a $500 Glock, so good luck getting $2,000 for it. Well, what do you mean? I spent all this money on there. I said, yeah, for you and your taste, and your same with a hot rod car. Yeah. You know, my taste in vehicles is not your taste in vehicles, and it's hard to get your money back out of. So I tell people, I said, you know, you can do all that stuff, but plan on keeping it. If you're going to do all that stuff to a gun, we'll help you make that happen. But plan on keeping it, because you're never going to get your money back out of it when you do those mods to
or
stuff.
a boat. You can do that with a boat.
Thing.
You buy you a boat, and you can wire lights and do all this redneck stuff it's just exactly what you want. And then by the time you get tired of it, you know, it's starting to show its age a little bit, and it ain't worth nothing.
Yeah.
I mean, I sold my boat a couple of weeks ago, and I had wired some. I said, well, the LED lights work. You're going to want to redo the wiring. You know, and then I had a duck blind on this thing. It's hanging in a tree up briefly. No, we don't need that. So then, you know, all the time and effort. But I did. Boats it's simple boats. What I've seen, simple boats, just a John boat with a motor, outboard motor, John boat, aluminum John boat, hold their value pretty doggone good. I mean, so
Absolutely, they do.
Now, fancy boats, different story. You know, the more complicated they are, you know.
That's like. Same with vehicles. Cars are the same way. You take a really high-end manufacturer, Mercedes, BMW, Maserati, Porsche, whatever else. You talk about taking a first-year hit on the value of it. When you drive those things off the lot, you know, they'll get to a point where they don't drop a lot more, but they take a huge hit.
There's a Porsche on the side of the road up there between the Dollar General and the Talon Range of Dothan. Sitting on the side of the road in the grass next to a cow field. I think I might be able to afford that one. I don't know what they got the price on it, but it's black, and probably got a red interior because that seems like it would be the thing to do. And it's just sitting there on the side of the road, and I went by there and looked at it, and I went, yeah, I could probably swing that, but I don't think I could fit in it. It's one of those. I don't know. A Magnum PI could fit in.
You know what model it is? Magnum
Dude.
PI had a Ferrari, by the way.
Did he? Okay. Well,
I had a Porsche one time, a 1975 914 Porsche, which is a glorified Volkswagen. It had a 1.8 liter 4-cylinder air-cooled Volkswagen motor in it, and you talk about 6'3" of me getting into that little 2-seater car. You know, I had to take. It was a hardtop convertible. Well, I had to take the top
you
off.
Had to be over this.
Because the top of my head was above the windshield, and it was, you know, it was constantly I'd get out there and it wouldn't crank. You know, turn the key over and it'd go to ticking. I'd go out there with a wrench and start tapping on things in the back of the motor back there. It had an electric fuel pump on it. And I had to go tap on that fuel pump, and boom, and there it goes. You know, but it was fun. It was a lot of fun. I had to roll start it more than I cranked it with the battery. Hey man, give me a push. And there you go.
looking at the old Porsche models, I don't know if it's like it's got a real pointed front end. I don't know. I don't know.
Probably a 924, 944.
I think it was a Porsche. It was one of them little sports cars. But you know, it's one of those high dollar ones that, you know,
that people can't afford to fix, because when they break, they're oh my god.
Well, I don't know. I mean, it's
well, the cool thing about mine was it was mostly a Volkswagen. It was essentially a Carmen Ghia Volkswagen with a fancier looking body on it. So.
I was I mean, I don't know. I drive pickup trucks and Priuses. I'm one of a few people around that actually puts a lift kit on a Prius. I've got 3 lifted Priuses now in Talon Security that are marked, striped up, on patrol, and we run Nissan Frontiers, and we put lift kits on those and bigger tires on them, so they can get where they need to be. Because a Nissan Frontier off the factory floor, Toyotas have more of a leveled appearance. You know, the
Right.
front end's higher than the front end and the rear end are about the same height. With a Nissan Frontier, whether you can't tell the 2-wheel drives from the 4-wheel drives off the lot unless there's some of the off-road
Yeah.
vehicles. And so the first thing I do with them, including the new ones we bought, is we put a 2.5-inch level kit on the front with a 1-inch lift on the back. So it's basically a 2.5-inch lift, but it levels it, gets us up off the ground. And now when I pull up, I don't have people knocking the spoiler out from under it when they hit the parking curve or something like that. It actually levels it, picks it up, and they're not terribly expensive. So even my Kia Sportage hybrid that I drive, Paul, the one I'm driving today, it gets really good mileage.
What kind of gas mileage does it get?
It's rated at like 38, 39 miles a gallon. The way I drive, I get low 30s on it.
12.
But it stays in the lane. I mean, I'm driving an F-250 or I'm driving that thing.
Right.
And I try to get my mileage down on my vehicle. So that thing, I put a 2-inch lift kit on it. See up there, the Camel Automotive got a 2-inch lift kit put on it. It needs bigger tires now.
Head west on Commerce Boulevard toward Fortune Boulevard.
What in the world?
What on earth?
You was getting directions to
I'm
something.
getting directions to here.
Well, you made it.
The computer decided to finally, talking about, hey, man, you've been sitting up here at the red light too long. But no, but now I don't have to sit down in it. I sit in it and I get out of it. But I'm gonna put some tires on it about an inch higher, pick it up one more inch, and it's very much like my daughter's got a Toyota 4Runner. It's almost, when I put the tires on, it'll be the same size as a 4Runner, which is cool, and get better mileage. Be back.
You've seen these trucks that kids have. Is it the back of them that's
Carolina
real low?
squatted.
Yeah, what's up with that? I don't.
You really need to ask that.
It's like,
That's the Porsche I had, except mine was black.
oh, okay. Yep.
And we're back. So if you're in the Wiregrass area, today, Saturday, there's a gun show this weekend in Ozark. And we have a booth set up. So if you're up in that area, you want to come by at the gun show. Frank is there, our store manager in Dothan, and probably some of our other folks. Got a table set up. He can show you. If you haven't seen our range, he's got some aerial photographs and some discount cards and some different things up there, brochures, and can talk to you about all that. So if you don't want to come all the way out to the range to see, if you go by, he can get you the link. You can go ahead and get the waiver and stuff knocked out. So when you do come out, you're already in the system. So y'all come to the Ozark Gun Show, wherever it is in Ozark. It's somewhere. I don't know where. So
Over yonder.
I see over yonder in Ozark.
Yeah, you got that.
Yeah.
You got that.
It's old school. Old school. Man, I tell you, growing up in the radio and the TV market for Dothan, Alabama, down in Marianna we've talked about this on the show before, and that was just a life experience. You're listening to the tailor-made Opry on the weekends, and the commercials and stuff. Hey, Howard, what you doing up there?
Getting down these low prices.
King's Furniture and Appliances. And that's not an endorsement of King's Furniture and Appliances. Howard, y'all don't pay us, but
Red Holland with the satellite company advertised, come on in, but number 3 wash tub. Come on in, satellite. Come on in.
Yeah. Oh, man. You find the stores there off the frontage road.
I tell you, man, is we've talked about it many times, but it's growing up where I grew up, and it was definitely much closer from Marianna to Dothan than it was Tallahassee.
Oh, yeah.
But even for
where
us,
we went shopping.
and it was the same distance from
Tallahassee was like a foreign country, but
yeah, but we would go to Dothan's because we had relatives there, and we get to go visit with aunt and uncles and cousins and all that. But it was also the same distance, so you weren't. And we'd go the back way, the river road. We'd go up River Road. And do all the windies and come out on 84 up there, and we go that way and enjoy the drive. And back then, my kids can't wrap their head around this. And I said, when they, I use this like when they finished I-10, and the kids look at me like, huh? I'm like, I-10 wasn't open between the Apalachicola River and Tallahassee for a long time, and I was a little bit older by the time they finally finished. It was one of the last stretches of I-10 that they completed, the bridge there. Yeah. So
the bridge that I go between my house and Mariana, now they've rebuilt it, but it was built. The date on it was 1976. I was 10 years old. Okay, and we had moved. That's the same year. Within a year or so, we were moving out of town, moving down into Dry Creek, my Uncle Herman's house down there, because our meat business in town, the roof literally fell in, and and as I recall it, and I may be wrong, Mama can correct me on this, but the roof above the freezer was leaking water, and it was dripping onto the ceiling of the insulated ceiling in the actual freezer, and it was freezing. And it's this huge block of ice up there, and eventually the weight got to be too much, and it just collapsed into the freezer. Oh. And that was the straw that broke the camel's back. That just put Daddy out of business. And nowadays you'd have insurance to cover all. Back then, meat inspectors came in, says you can't do this, can't do that, and so they built Dry Creek Smokehouse back where we used to have a smokehouse before, and Daddy had moved to town, built his business, and went back down on a papa. But we had Daddy went through bankruptcy and everything, and they gave up the house and moved down there, and it was we would drive back and forth down there, and Daddy was getting into farming and stuff at the same time, and Daddy had this old Dodge pickup truck, the old 4-wheel drive with the automatic on the column, and it had that big old motor in it. I drove that thing. We'd go up to the dump up on Pittman Hill Road, I think it was, and he'd get me out there at the old county dump, let me shoot a shotgun for the first time. All this is happening about the same time. I remember falling on my butt when it happened, but it was, but going up, we would go, while they were building that bridge, we had to drive down and drive over all the lanes of traffic on the old dirt interstate while they were building. I still remember that. We'll be back. Speaking of old trucks, let's change gears here and downshift a little bit. So this morning, Friday morning, yesterday morning, if we're on there, the Supreme Court made I wouldn't call it a landmark decision, but they did make a decision on some gun rights stuff, and it was a 8-1 decision, pretty overwhelming. It wasn't unexpected. It has to do with gun rights, and what it said was that your Second Amendment rights are not absolute. If a court has determined that you are an immediate threat to someone, that they can temporarily take your Second Amendment rights. They can seize your firearms in like a domestic violence injunction or a domestic case where
there's
a court has
for
determined.
Violence, yeah.
A court has determined, which and I think this pertains or will pertain to domestic violence injunctions or those types of things where somebody goes in. We don't always like seeing this stuff in the Second Amendment world because it has further reaching implications, and we have to be concerned about more states going deeper into, okay, well, they said we can infringe on people's rights if we think they're a danger. But
who gets to decide whether or not you're the danger?
Right. Yeah, that's the issue right
there. Who
there.
Gets to make that decision? They say, well, the court. Yeah, so our judges are completely and totally impartial, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, we saw that in the New York case against Trump, completely impartial. Right. So what happens is, and now if you are the victim of, and listen, if you are the type of person that beats your spouse, I don't want you to have a gun. Right. I don't want you to have a gun. I mean, you don't need a gun.
If you're willing to do physical harm to your supposedly someone you love more than anybody else in the world, if you're willing to hurt them, you don't need weapons to do that with.
Right. So. Now, there needs to be a remedy at some point in your life, somewhere down the road that you've changed.
Sure.
You can prove
People do
that you've changed, and so and I'm not looking at red flag laws as much. I'm looking at just domestic violence injunctions and things like that. I mean, so if you got, and we also know that people get arrested for domestic violence when they're not necessarily there. It wasn't necessarily
and
their fault.
We know that judges will sign off on domestic violence injunctions with little to no evidence of said domestic violence just because somebody said so, just because one half filed the injunction.
And I don't know what it is now because I haven't been involved in this recently, but traditionally in our law enforcement careers, to get a domestic violence injunction or an injunction against repeat violence is, I think, what they're technically called, because it doesn't have to be domestic, but it should be. So it can be roommates, it can be a number of different things. You have to be able to swear and show that there was an instance of violence in the last 6 months, and this is not the only one. There has to be a couple of instances. And so you would go down and you go to the clerk of the court and you fill out an affidavit and you swear that this is the case and you submit that to the court. And then if the judge grants a temporary injunction, they will give that to the sheriff's office. Sheriff's office will go serve that injunction on said person, and they have to surrender their firearms to either a family member, friend, or they have to give them to the sheriff's office, turn them in. The sheriff's office hates it when they do these things because the judge we're seizing all these firearms, and there might be a room full. And they go to the sheriff's office. The sheriff's office doesn't have room to store all these things traditionally, so they're trying to get them out to a family member. It doesn't get guns from people. It gets the guns you're willing to tell them about from people. So I don't know how much good it really does. An injunction is just a piece of paper, but a lot of times there are other things in there, like, hey, you can't have the kids until, there's a lot of things. There's a lot of reasons an injunction is good, and there is definitely a place for those things, and they are useful. But it's still a piece of paper, and you're still relying on that person to tell you, do you have any guns in the house? No, I don't have any. Okay, she says you have guns. I don't have any. Okay, well, I guess we got to trust you. I mean, that's where it goes. It doesn't give you the ability to go into the house and search the house and do things like that. Technically, if you come in here to buy a gun and you've got a 3-day wait and you buy a gun from us or any gun store, and you don't come back for 2 weeks, you could have committed, you pass your background check, and we call you, hey, man, you passed background check, come get your gun.
You could have been robbing banks every day.
Yeah, you got up to 30 days to come pick it up from us. Right. We don't have to do we don't do and don't have to do, not allowed to do another background check on you in that 30-day window. And if you come back and pick it up 3 weeks later, you could have had an injunction served against you. We have no way of knowing that. I mean, so there's all kinds of loopholes in these things. And while I'm not a big fan of people, giving it to, I mean, somebody has to make a decision. And it's unfortunate in this country that we have judges that will go, hey, they said this. Now, that's a temporary injunction. You get a temporary injunction. Now we're talking about in Florida. I'm sure there's something similar in Alabama and Georgia. But that temporary injunction is only good for so many days. So it's typically within a 2 to 3 week period. You then have to go back before a judge for an injunction hearing. And then the respondee and both the person petitioning for it and the person that's responding to it are supposed to be there. And then the judge decides whether or not that's going to be permanent or not, or may make it a year, may make it permanent. And you can always petition down the road to get that thing removed. You go hire an attorney and do that. But the fact is if they make that thing permanent, you're not buying any guns and you can't possess firearms. And the thing is so you had a bad experience, and Lord knows, and I hate to say this, but there are people lie. No. People lie. There are vindictive people that lie, and they say this happened, and there's no proof, and the judge says, "Okay, well, you can't have guns." And you just took away that person's.
That's the thing that has always really bothered me about the whole injunction thing is that somebody can go in there and just absolutely lie, or both parties can go in there and absolutely lie. And, if something that happened in the privacy of your home that there are no witnesses to, that judge is basically going to sit there and look in their face and listen to their story and may potentially make a decision that takes the rights away from one of the parties simply based on the expression on their face or what they said. Because if Paul says, JD stole $500 from me. We were sitting at his house, and he stole $500 from me. Well, my only defense against that is, no, I didn't. So unless there was somebody else there witnessing and whatever else, it's just your word against mine. And that's a lot of times what these injunction hearings turn out to be, is one person's word against the other with no corroborative evidence. And the judge has just got the judge is in a bad position. They got to make a decision.
Yeah.
But we have daughters, and we are in favor of domestic violence laws, and we
absolutely.
And you know what? I've seen
Son
women
too.
beat the snot out of men. I mean, it's happened.
Worked both ways.
We've arrested both sides, and people don't get that sometimes. You should. Just because you call doesn't mean you're the victim. You get there and you get looking at the evidence, and sometimes people tell the story, and you're sitting there, okay, so he hit you. Yes, he did. He shoved me down, and he did this, and I blah, 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 blah. Okay, why did he do that? Well, he cheated on me, and I slapped him upside the head, and then he did whoa, what now? Yeah. Oh, well, ma'am.
I worked one night.
You have the right to remain silent.
I worked one of those one night where it was he beat me up. He punched me in the face and this, that, and the other. And I'm like, well, what caused all that? Well, I had a hot iron, and he made me mad, and I stuck the iron, and I look over there at the guy, and he's got the perfect imprint of a hot iron. The big triangle on his arm there, and he's sitting over there. He goes, "Yeah, I hit her because she stuck that hot iron to me." And I'm like, "Ma'am, you're going to have to come with me." What? He hit me? I'm like, yeah, after you stuck a hot iron to him.
You got to make sure.
You started that one.
When
Sorry.
you call 911 and you want to report a violent crime, you need to make sure you aren't the person who initiated that, because you may be just calling to turn yourself in. Yes. And don't think just because you're the woman that's not going to happen.
The law says primary aggressor.
Yeah, and law enforcement officers are required to make an arrest unless they can justify not doing it. I mean, they have to be able to explain why somebody didn't go to jail. I mean, when we were rookies, you'd say, "Hey, man, you just go stay with your brother and you stay here and y'all split up for the night," and that was fine. And then they started making the law stronger to where you had to incarcerate somebody.
I think it says something that if the primary aggressor can be determined,
yes,
there shall be an arrest.
There shall be an arrest. Exactly. That's verbatim right there. But the Supreme Court said all that is reasonable. And it's not an unreasonable infringement on your rights. So, like every other right, there are limitations. We'll be right back. And we're back. So, in another Supreme Court situation, on the break, JD brought up.
It was about a week ago.
Yeah, and we don't think we talked about it on the radio, but we're going to pretend we didn't talk about it on the radio. And talk about it is very important, because there's a Supreme Court decision as it relates to bump stocks. JD, go ahead.
Yeah, so during the Trump administration, following the Las Vegas Jason Aldean concert shooting thing, when the guy was shooting out the windows at Mandalay and killed all the people there at the concert.
Which we've been there.
We
stood down there where the curtain looked up.
We saw the broke windows. Hadn't been replaced yet.
Yeah.
But anyway, so following that atrocity, during the Trump administration, there was a ban. He signed an executive order banning bump stocks, made them illegal in all 50 states by federal. I hate to call it law, but it wasn't a law. So there was an executive decision and a rule passed by the ATF that said bump stocks are now machine guns and you can't have one. Florida also passed a state law that mirrored that when Rick Scott was the governor, passed a state law that said, doesn't just say bump stocks. It says in Florida anything that increases or assists you in increasing the rate of fire of a firearm, which is binary triggers, forced reset triggers, bump stocks, any of those things that can help you shoot a gun faster beyond what you're pulling the trigger with your finger can do, are also illegal. They're illegal by Florida law also. Well, the Supreme Court came out with a ruling, and it's basically the same thing we've been saying on this show since all of this stuff started happening, was the ATF, or the executive branch of the government, cannot make laws. They can interpret laws and they enforce laws, but they can't make laws. And that's kind of the way our government has been operating on a lot of different fronts for a very long time. It's not just the ATF, it's the EPA, it's the, Department of Justice, and all of these other things that they're just kind of arbitrarily coming up with these can't do this thing rule.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have the force of law, and they don't have the right to do that. And the Supreme Court basically came out and said, yeah, you didn't have the authority to change your thinking on this. The law is very clearly defined what a machine gun is. A bump stock does not make it a machine gun. They overturned the ruling, which also affects the pistol brace ruling to a great degree. The pistol brace ruling has been vacated, so pistol braces are legal. Also, they're legal in Florida. They are legal in Florida, so it's perfectly legal to have a pistol brace, a pistol with a brace on it right now.
Anywhere.
Anywhere.
Unless there's a specific state law.
A state law that prohibits.
And the problem is in Florida that felony offense of having a bump stock or something on your trigger is still in place.
It's still in place, correct.
So even though nationally,
but the pistol braces are legal.
Pistol braces are legal in Florida. Bump stocks are not legal in Florida.
Correct.
So
they're
if
legal
you have
in Georgia. They're
right,
legal in Georgia
and Alabama, you can have them.
Right.
But Florida, being one of the more right-wing, gun-friendly states in this nation, one of the most gun-friendly states in this nation, we have a law on the books that is absolutely ridiculous.
The bump stock thing, I think, was all part of the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas Act and all of the gun laws that were put in place when all of these bad things happened at a really fairly close together time frame.
So if you go toe to toe against a guy who has a let's say a modern sporting rifle, they've got an AR-15, and he's 100 yards away from you, and you are similarly armed. And he has a semi-automatic AR-15, or he has a bump stock on an AR-15. Which one would you rather him have?
I'd rather him have the bump stock because if he's my opponent, they're very difficult to control and shoot accurately at any distance beyond
almost impossible
15
to aim
yards. Yeah,
at anything beyond short quarters, close quarter stuff. So in the thing, it makes them more dangerous. If you can put your finger on the table right now and go tap that fast, you can shoot that fast. If you can tap, you can shoot that fast too. And you can shoot more accurately at a higher rate, I think, by physically manipulating the trigger versus having a bump stock. Because I've shot a bump stock, and it's awkward, and I don't like it.
Yeah. So Jerry Mitchell, who's a famous competition shooter, actually ran that race against a guy with a bump stock that was proficient. The guy was very proficient with the bump stock. And this was a number of shots and hits. So accuracy and speed accuracy drills, bump stock versus Jerry Mitchell, and Jerry Mitchell smoked him. So and he's an accomplished shooter, but it's humanly possible to do what a bump stock does.
And you don't need a bump stock to shoot bump fire.
No,
I mean you can just
you can hang your thumb in a anyway.
There's ways to do this stuff.
Put it in your belt loop and
we love it as a gun range owners. We love it. You buy ammo from us, go down there as long as you're shooting a bump stock within 15 yards of the berm, so you don't shoot over it or around it and hit our target frames. Because that's our limitations on shooting rapid fire is 15 yards and in. For preservation of our facilities.
It's a huge waste of ammunition.
Yeah,
and we appreciate that.
You blow all the ammo you want. Love when I get down there range. Look, every time you pull the trigger, money. Yeah, absolutely, dude. It's keep it coming. So I hate that, and I don't want a bump stock. I'm not a fan of bump stocks. But that doesn't mean that I don't support I just think that it was an unnecessary infringement, and I hate that Florida has a law on the books, and I think it ought to be readdressed. The next revision of that act, they need to take that out of there because it does not present a danger. And there are bump stocks all over this state that people have just tucked away somewhere, and you've made felons of them for no reason. When the ATF has said we can't, or the Supreme Court said the ATF can't do anything about it, nationally they're not going to pass any gun laws at a federal level. They're going to limit stuff like that. There's no appetite for it, no support for it. It's just not going to happen. The Democrats couldn't even, if they had the House, the Senate, and the White House, they couldn't drum up enough support to do that. Yeah. So that's gone. And so I applaud all these decisions, and they're good for us. I just wish in Florida we could fix that one because that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
But,
So,
who are we? We're nothing. We're nobody.
So that's segment 4, and Paul Tyre's here, and we want to hear about some fishing.
Well, we can talk about some fishing, but this week it has been a strong east wind. I'm sure y'all noticed, and it has been slow. But thank God when this airing is Saturday and the wind's not supposed to be as much today. But man, it's been slow. You remember that old saying, JD?
Wind out of the east, fishing is least.
That's right. Man, I tell you what, I think we're going to get a little bit out of the west come on Sunday. So they might be biting because they sure have been biting this week. That's the truth.
I've been seeing some pictures of old buddy of mine, old Chris Neely, that lives up there on the lake. I grew up with him. He's been posting some big bass on Instagram that he's been catching out of the on something. Yeah, I don't know what he's catching them on. He's secret. He ain't like you. He's secretive about stuff.
Yeah, he tries to keep it secret. I know.
Keep it on the down low. But
Chris is a great fisherman too. He's a really good fisherman.
I taught him everything he knows.
Did you?
Yeah.
My gosh, I tell you what, that's something. Wonder.
We used to fish together when we were in high school. We were teenagers.
Yeah.
So I'm just teasing. He is a great fisherman. I didn't teach him quite everything. I didn't teach him everything I know. Let's put it that way, Paul.
Yeah, that's right. You kept some of it. I tell you what, but I really think this weekend is going to be good. Especially we finally get some cloud cover coming in and some that change from that east wind. But this weekend there's the Bass Federation State Classic. He'll be in. I'm fishing in it too, and we're fishing that this weekend. And I'm got a feeling they're going to bite. Hopefully they do.
I hope they do for y'all. Hope you have a good safe weekend. It's going to be real hot this weekend.
Yes,
it's going to be stifling.
You're looking at not much wind on today on Saturday and on Sunday. It looks like we got a little bit of cloud cover coming in, but we could use some of that rain.
Yeah, we
got 95, 96, 97.
You got a 50% chance of rain more or less all next week, starting on Monday.
That's right.
Some tropical
now
stuff.
they are going to bite next week.
Yeah. I tell you, this week there's a couple of nights this week I'm going home, and I'm used to seeing this time of year. I'm used to seeing 95, 96, 97 on my dashboard on my radio or whatever, telling me the outside temperature. And I drove home the other day, and I'm like, this ain't terrible. It was 89 degrees.
Yeah,
and I'm like, I'll take 89 degrees this time of year here. Yeah. It's not bad at all. We've a little bit of cloud cover, a little bit of breeze. It's been pretty comfortable outside.
It helps for sure.
Been pretty comfortable. So. But yeah, well, I hope y'all do good in the tournament. You anything else going on the lake?
Well, I'll tell you, we've been having some mayflies still hatching. Haven't had none this week, but that'll run all the way to September. And so I'm looking forward. Mr. Dale Bessie got me a fly rod. I caught that first fish on a fly rod, so I'm going to be doing some of that next week.
Well, good for you. They catch some of them big old bluegills.
Yeah, I want to try that.
I've been hearing some guys catching shellcracker and bluegill on Lake Talquin. Talked to some guys here recently that said they've been doing pretty good, and it's about time that they have a good mayfly hatch on Lake Talquin too.
That's right. They're usually a little bit later than when they start when Seminole is.
Get out there with a glow bug at night. And you talk about having
We
fun.
need to go try that. We need to do that sometime.
Well, I've done it. I guarantee you.
Right there.
All right. Well, we'll see y'all next week.
All right.